Testing? Yeah, okay. Good afternoon and welcome to the Northwest Piano Trio concert. Um, I'm going to be really brief this afternoon because I suspect you'd rather hear beautiful music than my voice. That's okay. The I'm going to introduce the ladies of the trio, um, and we'll just start with that. First of all, we have Hannah Hillenbrand, who was an ICU nurse and now plays the cello like an angel. In my mind, she just transferred from one form of angelical bliss to another. Then we have uh, Top Gun Esther Shim, who is a rock star on the violin. And finally, we have Stephanie. Stephanie, we took a poll earlier this day, and 68% of Republicans, Democrats, and independents did not believe that Smith was really your last name. But the good news is 100% loved you and loved the way you play the piano. These ladies are individually great talent, but as a group, when they play together, magic happens. So let's sample that magic now. And I present proudly to you the Northwest Piano Trio.
And then the bride was in place for her wedding. The piece you just heard is inscripted Commemorative March, written for my sister Susie's wedding in my New York apartment. Her brother who composed this, none other than Samuel Barber. Welcome to Stephanie Style, the final concert of the 10th anniversary season of the Northwest Piano Trio. Our year has been titled Getting to Know Us, and each performer has curated a concert. The Esther Effect was in the fall, Hannah's Harmonies in the winter, and now Stephanie Style. That's me. My style is diversity. As a classically trained concert pianist, I did not hear names outside of Western composers like Bach, Beethoven, Haydn, Handel, Mozart, Brahms, Schubert, Schumann, Chopin, Rachmaninoff, Liszt, and Tchaikovsky. Obviously, I just rattled off the names of piano composers. Yes, I later learned Fauré, Debussy, Ravel, and then Messiaen and Bartók in college, but I never knew Samuel Barber was gay. I never knew Aaron Copland was gay. I never heard of Florence Price or any African American composers other than, of course, Scott Joplin. Heck, I didn't even know anybody else wrote rags for the piano. There are tons of composers of rags other than Scott Joplin. I still don't hear the names of Asian composers and really only know a few Spanish here and there. Zero Central or South American unless you gave me a multiple choice test and then I might say, okay, sure, I've heard that name, but it certainly isn't on the tip of my tongue. So, the first piece was composed by Samuel Barber in 1940. Think about that. Samuel Barber was gay and was partnered with Menotti, Giancarlo Menotti, for 40 years. Maybe you know Menotti's name, maybe you don't, but maybe you have heard of Amal and the Night Visitors. Yes. Anyway, I think it's awesome that Susie was married in 1940 in her gay brother's apartment in New York. I like Susie. This concert will feature a gay composer, a living local transgender composer, a black composer, a female Australian composer, and 2 Jewish composers, 1 female and 1 male. And then we end with a surprise, but that will come later. This next sweet little set is by a local transgender composer, Kit Abramson. Kit lives in Salem, Oregon, and is a cellist, composer, and teacher. When we first played through this suite, Esther said something like, it feels very Renaissance-y, like, hey, where's my leg of lamb? And that's when I recalled that I often see Kit posting on Facebook that he is sewing his outfit for Ren Fair, is practicing his sword fighting in the local park, and brewing his own beer. I looked on his website and found this little sentence. He hopes to one day live in a queer collective with dogs, animals, gardens, crafts, and sword fighting friends. Please sit back and enjoy, in 3 brief movements, the Piano Trio by Kit Abramson. It's a neat little piece, isn't it? The Renaissance sound felt very Christmas holiday to us, so don't know if that came across to y'all as well. This next short piece is by Florence Price. I will die mad that I never knew her name until a few years ago when my student Aurora Sherman made me aware of her. Florence Price was a major African-American composer of over 300 works. She was born in Little Rock, Arkansas, and went to school at New England Conservatory of Music. She was living with her husband and 2 children in Arkansas until lynching became a thing, and then relocated to Chicago to escape Jim Crow laws. After a divorce, she moved in with her great friend and student, Margaret Bonds, another name we should all know and probably don't. And together, they wrote and premiered many pieces. If you have never heard the name Florence Price or Margaret Bonds, please go down this rabbit hole and learn about 2 great African-American composers and performers. This next short piece is one of 44 art songs that Florence Price wrote. This one is called Night, and I first heard it as a vocal solo. I believe Sarah Zemansky is here. She's sitting, you're not going to hear Sarah Zemansky sing, but she's a fabulous soprano. And I heard this piece sung as a solo, and it really translates beautifully to strings. The Mertz Trio arranged it for piano trio on their website. It is one of Florence Price's most famous songs, and it is absolutely beautiful. Please enjoy Night. Had to include that. It's so beautiful, isn't it? It's just, fabulous. Florence Price is her name. The next featured composer is Elena Katz-Chernin. I discovered her by accident when I did a Google search for living female composers. Elena Katz-Chernin was born in Russia and emigrated to Australia in 1975, where she still resides and was honored with the Order of Australia. She has a fascinating resume, including music for operas, ballets, instrumental, choral, orchestral, and film scores. The pieces I discovered were piano trio arrangements by the composer herself from her most famous ballet, Wild Swans. And I just wanted to add, I tried to order the music online, and the publisher said, this is an international score. It's going to take months to get, just letting you know. And I happened to have a friend who was vacationing in Australia at the time, so she went to Amazon Australia and got it the next day for $18. And my friend Linda, who died in January from pancreatic cancer, is the one who brought that score and gifted it all $18. She would laugh at that joke. So every time we play these pieces, I will think of Linda. We love these pieces. This is such a pleasant surprise, and we hope you do too. There are 4 movements, brief, some of them a little longer than others. It feels very imagery of nature, right? So sit back and relax. And these are 4 movements by Elena Katz-Chernin from her ballet Wild Swans. Thank you so very much. I struggle when I go to a concert and I don't know any of the music and it's all new. I just go, somebody will just play some Mozart soon. I will be past this. So congratulations to all of you to making it to this part of the concert with a bunch of music you have never heard and had a lot of composers' names thrown at you. Congratulations on that. And now our final piece of the concert is Mendelssohn. Mendelssohn's Piano Trio No. 1. My mother is starting to clear off her desk, and she is sending me photos and photos from my childhood and college eras. There is one photo from one of my master's degree chamber music concerts, and the cellist is working hard. The violinist is sitting meaningfully while the cellist works hard. And then my hair, which used to be down to my waist, my hair is flying. It is a dynamic photo. I messaged the players to ask what piece that could have been. They said, oh yeah, that was the Mendelssohn. And it all came back to me. I loved playing that piece, and it was his Piano Trio No. 2. I wanted to perform something from my past, and both Esther and Hannah have performed the first piano trio before, so I agreed to learn it. Felix Mendelssohn was born in 1809 in Germany to a family of Jewish heritage. He was baptized Lutheran at age 7. There is a lot to unpack there. And yes, in the 1930s, the Nazis did seem to care that Mendelssohn, who was long since dead by that time, had been Lutheran his entire life. Didn't matter. The name Mendelssohn is Jewish, and after Mendelssohn's father died, he did embrace his Jewish heritage. It is noted while his father was alive, Mendelssohn wrote from his Christian perspective with anti-Jewish lyrics and themes, but after his father died, he was able to proclaim his Christian faith without negativity directed toward the Christian community. Mendelssohn did have a sister named Fanny, who also composed. Perhaps you have heard of her. I just wanted to mention that since women composers gained zero traction in those days and still struggle in a predominantly male field. Felix Mendelssohn was influenced by Bach and Beethoven and is considered early romantic. I find this piano trio to be dynamic and a whole lot of fun. We will be playing the first, second, and fourth movements of Mendelssohn's Piano Trio No. 2. We hope you have enjoyed this concert and perhaps heard composers' names you want to explore more. Thank you so much. Enjoy that? It's a party on stage, too. We are the Northwest Piano Trio. I am Stephanie Lynn Smith on piano. This is Esther Shim on violin, and we are lucky to have our founder, Hannah Hillebrand, on cello. I want to acknowledge the most important person on the stage, Eric Gullickson, my page turner. Without him, there would be no concert, and I guarantee you he was the most nervous person on stage. We really want to thank Cannon Beach Community Church. You really are our home away from home. We consider you our home church. And thank you so much for paying for our housing last night. We needed to have a rehearsal in this space last night due to our schedules. And so thank you so very much for allowing us to stay in beautiful Cannon Beach and for handling that for us. Thank you so much. We are in our 10th anniversary season. We have one more concert in Portland in 2 weeks on June the 1st in the new concert hall for all classical radio. We operate entirely on donations and want to thank you for your past, present, and future generosity. We have our Ye Olde donation bowl in the back of the room. If you are like me, Gen X, and have actual physical checks in your purse, you can make those out to Northwest Piano Trio, and you may also donate online. Go to www.northwestpianotrio.org, and please follow us on social media and sign up for our electronic newsletter. If you are looking for something great to do on Father's Day, why not spend it with us? We have a house concert on Sunday, June 15 at 3 p.m. in Portland in a beautiful private home. Tickets are $50 and we have 20 seats. Our house concerts help us to financially sustain offering free concerts, and we would love to have you. Once again, tickets and information are on our website, www.northwestpianotrio.org. Yes, we have one more piece. I wanted us to offer something modern, something you might hear on the radio, and step outside the classical world. In 2016, the world lost the brilliant gay English artist George Michael to addiction. George Michael possessed one of the finest vocal instruments ever. And if you listen to the lyrics of his songs, he was an incredibly prophetic and deep man. He pushed back against platforms like MTV, when they actually played music, that censored and controlled musicians, and he carved his own path, but not without much pain and anguish. A quote from the book called George Michael, A Life by James Gavin: "For Michael, the drug GHB seemed heaven sent, and it made a depressed and self-loathing man feel attractive. It brought joy where there was little, but it also took him to a frightening new level of self-addiction and destruction. GHB is more addictive than meth and riskier in all varieties." He died on Christmas Day in 2016. And so, Stephanie style. Samuel Barber, a gay man in 1940, when gays were harassed and considered mentally ill. Kit Abramson is a trans man in Salem, living with the constant barrage of hateful rhetoric from our government and religious institutions at all levels. Florence Price called herself Mexican in college to avoid Jim Crow laws, and as I stated earlier, left Arkansas because lynchings were becoming a regular event. Elena Katz-Chernin never specifically says anything about leaving Russia except that she had food insecurity and there were food shortages, and she found Australia to be a miraculous land of opportunity. Felix Mendelssohn had to deal with a Jewish last name his entire life, and his children and grandchildren suffered under the Nazis for it. George Michael was closeted during the height of his popularity and died from drug addiction. The classical world of which we are a part is very much heterosexual, white, and male. Female conductors and composers are still a rarity. It's getting better, but I just had a friend have his composition pulled from a major choral conference because he is gay. I have another friend who is a transgender composer, and she moved states to get away from being targeted by the government. This is 2025. There is so much music we don't know, and so many artists out there right now composing. What is that amazing sentence from the Declaration of Independence? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Happiness emphasizes individual freedom and the right to strive for a fulfilling life rather than merely existing or being free from oppression. It matters that you and I can be who we are. Thank you for coming today to support 3 women doing what we love to do. I hope you have found something meaningful in this concert. Thank you so much for coming and listening. And we would now like to dismount with a popular song by George Michael, and this was voted the most popular song in England.